So I'm lying in a hospital bed, freshly stitched up from emergency surgery, and, well, my phone buzzes. It's my dad. And trust me, it's not a how are you feeling kind of call. There's tension, there's betrayal, and yeah, a family reunion I was supposed to go to just got a lot more complicated. I mean, you think you know your family, right? Wait until you hear what happens next. By the way, where in the world are you watching from today? Drop it in the comments. The antiseptic hit my nose the moment I opened my eyes. That sharp, almost metallic smell that makes your stomach twist in knots. I groaned softly, the hospital bed creaking under me, and tried to focus on the steady beep of the monitor beside me. Beep, beep, beep. Like a metronome marking the slow, relentless rhythm of my throbbing headache. My abdomen burned like someone had set it on fire, and my throat was raw, dry as sandpaper. I was 3 hours out of emergency surgery, and every movement felt like climbing a mountain, vulnerable, weak, totally alone. I reached for my phone with a trembling hand, the haze of anesthesia still clinging to my brain. I had sent a quick message to the family group the moment they wheeled me into surgery. Love you guys. That's it. Just a simple check-in. Now. 3 hours later, I swiped the screen and held my breath, expecting to see a flood of messages. My mom. Maybe a text from my sister. Rebecca. Something. Anything. But the screen was eerily quiet. Not a single notification. Just the empty glow mocking me. I swallowed hard, trying to tell myself maybe they were busy. They were preparing for the annual family reunion barbecue. After all, I had funded it every single year, and maybe they were just caught up in the chaos. And then, just as the sense of isolation threatened to swallow me whole, my phone buzzed. A call. Dad. Relief crashed over me, sudden and sharp, like a wave against the cliffs of my chest. I cleared my throat, trying to sound steadier than I felt. Hi, Dad, I rasped, my voice cracking slightly, but it wasn't a warm, caring voice that answered. It was loud, booming, and it wasn't even private. It was on speakerphone. Laughter rippled in the background, high-pitched and mocking. Rebecca. I realized too late that this wasn't a check-in. It was a performance. And I was the punchline. Nicola, my father said, cutting me off before I could finish. His voice wasn't filled with concern. It was sharp, dismissive, laced with the kind of arrogance that makes your stomach sink. I didn't call to hear about your stomach ache. I called to talk about Saturday. My chest tightened. Saturday. The barbecue. I winced as my stitches tugged with the movement. I might be a little slow, I said cautiously, but I'm hoping to be discharged tomorrow. I bought the brisket yesterday, so I just need to... He interrupted again, laughter crackling in the background. Rebecca. That distinct, cruel giggle that cut sharper than any blade. Don't come, my father said. Slow and deliberate. The room seemed to shrink. The monitor's beeps, once a steady heartbeat of comfort, now felt deafening. What I whispered, gripping the cold metal rail of the bed, he repeated it, enunciating each word like I was a child. Don't come. Nicola, we've been talking your mother. Rebecca and I, and we decided it's better if you just sit this one out. I tried to understand. Is it because of the surgery I can just sit in a chair? I won't be in the way? He barked a laugh, cruel and short. It's not the surgery. Nicola, God, you're always so dramatic. It's you, me. You're a buzzkill. You come around with your suits, your work talk, your schedule. You make everyone uncomfortable. Rebecca says she feels judged every time you look at her. Martha says she can't relax because you're always reorganizing the kitchen. We're tired of pretending. Nicola. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. pretending to like me. My heart hammered against my ribs faster than the monitor could keep up with, and the air seemed suddenly thin. My father's voice went on, flat and cutting, spelling out my supposed crimes, stiff, boring, a source of discomfort, of family disruption. And then, with a finality that made the blood drain from my face, he said, "Nobody wants you there. Take a hint. Stay home." Rebecca's voice floated clearly through the speaker, smug and almost gleeful. "Tell her to send the brisket over, though." I froze, the betrayal sharp and tangible. The line went dead, leaving me staring at the screen, my tears finally breaking free, hot, blinding, unstoppable. The pain in my body was nothing compared to this. This was more than a rejection. This was a statement. The person I had devoted years of my life to, who I had supported financially and emotionally, had officially dismissed me. I felt hollow, gutted, stitched up both inside and out. The next hour was a blur of stillness. I couldn't move, couldn't process. Nurses came by, offering sympathetic smiles. More morphine, a quiet presence. But they didn't know. They couldn't know. This wasn't about painkillers. I needed clarity. I needed to wrap my mind around what had just happened. The echo of "tired of pretending" looped in my head like a broken record. Every thought, every memory of the last decade flashed before me. Paying bills, managing their debts, covering Rebecca's failed attempts at college, keeping the lights on, the fridge stocked, the house functional, and now, nothing, not even acknowledgement, nothing but cruel laughter and exclusion. I closed my eyes, letting the antiseptic smell, the sterile white walls, the mechanical beeping become a backdrop to a storm of emotion. Vulnerability had never felt so raw, loneliness had never been so sharp, and betrayal. It wasn't just words, it was a knife twisting in the soft, tired tissue of my heart. I realized, painfully, that the people I had devoted myself to, the family I had supported, protected, and carried, saw me as nothing more than a utility, a tool to maintain their comfort, nothing human, not loved, not appreciated, just necessary. And now, in the wake of this call, I was finally seeing the full scope of it. They didn't need me, they didn't want me, they never had. I lay back against the crisp, white hospital sheets, the antiseptic still clinging to my senses, and let my thoughts drift back over the last 10 years. 10 years of juggling not just my own life, but theirs too. Paying the electric bill when Dad's back couldn't take another winter in the factory. Covering groceries when Mom decided that a crafting hobby was worth more than the fridge being full. Rebecca's college tuition, again and again. Her failed attempts lined up like a mocking timeline. And I silently picked up the pieces each time. It had started as helping, a temporary patch, bridge over a rough period. But somehow, that bridge had turned into a highway. One I was driving on alone while everyone else just enjoyed the ride. I thought about the little things too, the automatic transfers I set up week after week, Verizon, the family plan with 4 lines, the water, the electricity, all under my name, all meticulously tracked. I had built an invisible scaffolding to keep their lives upright. And for what? For a laugh on speakerphone and being called a buzzkill? I mean, was it really so much to ask for acknowledgement? A simple thank you. I had sacrificed hours of my own sleep, weekends, personal plans. I had spent evenings sitting with spreadsheets while they were at parties, gigs, and whatever else they found more entertaining than recognizing me. And here's the weird part, none of it ever seemed to matter. My care, my work, my support, they didn't see it. They didn't see me. I realized that in their eyes, I was less than human. I was the electricity, the running water, the fridge stocked, the bills paid on time, a utility. a silent background fixture to their comfort. You don't thank a light switch when it works, you just curse it when it doesn't. And that's exactly how they treated me. Not like a daughter, not like family, just a functional tool to prop up the life they wanted without effort. It hit me slowly. The clarity like ice dripping through my veins. Every act of kindness, every financial intervention, every little sacrifice they weren't noticed, weren't appreciated. They were expected, taken for granted, a given. I had been trained to believe that providing meant being loved, that sustaining their lives was somehow equivalent to sustaining their affection for me. And now I was lying in this hospital bed, stitched up and physically vulnerable, and the truth slapped me awake harder than any cold antiseptic smell. I had been exploited. My heart sank as I counted the years in my head. Every year, I had taken on responsibilities that should never have been mine. Dad's truck payments, covered, utilities covered. The credit card bills that piled up from their whims and laziness paid off quietly, out of sight. Rebecca's lifestyle, her failed college classes, the current influencer dream that didn't even make her self-sufficient funded. And through it all, the expectation was constant: do not complain, do not question, just serve. And if I dared, if I ever showed even a hint of annoyance, suddenly I was the problem, stiff, boring, condescending, a buzzkill. It was infuriating in a way that made my blood run cold. I remembered the smaller moments too, the subtle jabs that had stung over the years, the furnace in the dead of winter, the emergency call for repairs. And instead of thanks, Dad kicking at the new unit like it had personally wronged him, Rebecca scrolling through her phone, making a TikTok about how loud the furnace was, while I had arranged it, paid for it, and made sure they stayed warm. Mom sighing and telling me I should find a husband instead of chasing my career. Each comment, each laugh, each dismissal, they weren't accidents. They were markers, tiny indicators of how expendable I had become in my own family. As the hours ticked by, I let myself catalog every one of these moments, the financial, emotional, and logistical support I had provided. I thought about the list of recurring payments I managed: Ford F-150 lease, utilities, city power, groceries, insurance, streaming subscriptions, Rebecca's weekly stipend. My mind, honed from years in logistics, ran through them like an audit, everything precise, everything accounted for, and the realization was brutal. I had effectively been running a family supply chain, a golden cage they didn't even realize I had built. And in return, they gave me mockery, cruelty, and exclusion. The more I thought about it, the colder I became. It wasn't just sadness anymore. It solidified into a dense, heavy weight in the pit of my stomach. Sadness shifted into something clearer, something precise: anger. Not yet. No, it was sharper than that. Recognition, understanding. I had been the backbone, the accountant, the caretaker, and the provider, and all the while, they had plotted to remove me from the equation, to ban me from the family reunion, to mock me over speakerphone, to laugh at my expense. The betrayal wasn't a moment, it was a system, a decade-long structure of reliance and manipulation, and I was finally seeing it. I let myself feel it fully, the sting of awareness. I had believed that love was bought, that respect was earned through service, and now the truth was unyielding. They didn't want love. They didn't want respect. They wanted a convenient, invisible provider. The realization was almost clinical in its precision. Every payment, every favor, every sacrifice, it had been interpreted as a tool, not an expression of care. They weren't just ungrateful, they didn't even acknowledge the humanity behind the utility. The tears came again, hot and silent, dripping onto the sterile pillow. But beneath the hurt was a strange clarity, a sharp understanding. I wasn't just sad or hurt anymore. I was awake. I knew exactly what had been happening. My emotional labor, my financial input, my presence, it had all been commodified. And in that moment, lying in the quiet hum of the hospital room, I felt something unfamiliar. Power. Not the angry kind, not yet, but clarity. The cold, hard understanding that I could finally see the situation for what it was. That recognition, that unflinching look at reality, was the first step toward reclaiming control. And for the first time, I could consider the idea that maybe, just maybe, I didn't have to participate in this cycle anymore. I didn't have to be a tool. I didn't have to pretend to be family when what they wanted wasn't me at all. I could see the exploitation. I could name it. And that, oddly enough, was freeing. Lying in that hospital bed, the fog of anesthesia slowly fading. I felt a strange clarity settle over me. It was almost like my body was broken and stitched back together, but my mind was sharper than it had been in years. And for some reason, I started thinking about all the financial threads I'd been holding together, the utilities, the bills, the truck, Rebecca's endless spending, the lifestyle everyone had been enjoying at my expense. It hit me suddenly and with precision that my family's entire operation was a failing supply chain, and in logistics, when a node fails repeatedly, you don't plead, you cut it, you stop the flow, you reclaim control. So I did what I always did when faced with a mess. I started auditing, slowly, methodically, with the meticulous patience that years in logistics had honed. I pulled up my banking app on my phone and scrolled through the automated payments scheduled for the next 3 days. Each entry was a breadcrumb, a clue, a reminder of just how deeply entwined I had become in their lives. Transfer to Thomas and Martha joint account. $800 for groceries and utilities. Ford credit. $650 for the F-150 lease. Verizon wireless. $240. Family plan. 4 lines. City power and light. $310. Venmo to Rebecca. $150 weekly for her content creation, streaming services, insurance premiums, internet. The list went on, and I realized something brutal. I had been running the financial backbone of this household for a decade, but then I noticed something that made my stomach tighten. A recurring charge on the secondary credit card I had given Mom for emergencies 3 years ago. Pending transaction, Ulta Beauty, $180. Liquor Barn, $310, another one, just yesterday. My pulse quickened. This wasn't emergencies. This was systematic. Months of unauthorized spending under the guise of convenience, all using the card I had trusted them with. My hands trembled slightly, but my mind stayed steady. I clicked through each transaction, the details screaming betrayal louder than any voice on speakerphone. Every dollar had been siphoned without thought, without acknowledgement. I swallowed and leaning back against the pillows, letting the anger simmer quietly, clinically. This wasn't about hurt anymore. It was about inefficiency, mismanagement, and exploitation. And I was about to fix it. First, the power, the family home, a sprawling 4-bedroom ranch, had been on my account for years. It was supposed to be a safety net, a measure to prevent them from ever going without heat, light, water. But the time for safety nets was over. I navigated to the utility portal, checked the status autopay active, everything current, perfect. I selected stop service. The system asked for confirmation. I took a deep breath and clicked confirm. Saturday, July 15th, high noon, July. The exact moment they were expecting to fire up the electric smoker, blast the music, host the barbecue. Perfect timing. The metaphorical smoke detector in my head buzzed with satisfaction. Next, the internet, Rebecca's gigabit ultimate package, the one she insisted she needed for uploads, live streams, and TikToks. I logged in, paused for a second as I imagined her scrolling in disbelief, and canceled it effective Friday at midnight. No Wi-Fi for the party, no streams, no social media updates, just silence, at least in terms of connectivity. And then the truck. The Ford F-15 Oak King Ranch. Beautiful, fully loaded, and more pride than anything else for Thomas. The lease, though, in my name, I paid the $650 monthly, the insurance, everything. Thomas didn't have legal control. That was fine. I logged into the Ford credit portal, scanning the lease terms carefully. There were options, voluntary surrender, early termination, but I didn't need to hurt my credit. I only needed to exercise my rights as the leaseholder. Technically, Thomas wasn't the primary driver anymore. He was just a permitted operator. Permission revoked. I arranged a vehicle recovery with a private contractor we used at work, scheduled for Monday morning. I smiled faintly. The weekend would still be chaotic without the truck, but I didn't want to go nuclear too early. Timing was everything. I went back through the finances, line by line. Everything needed to be accounted for, because one misstep could give them leverage or, worse, confusion. I found the pending charges on the secondary card, the repeated misuse for personal spending that wasn't emergencies. I called the credit card fraud department, voice steady, almost cold, and reported unauthorized activity. The card was canceled, and I instructed them not to send a replacement to the compromised address. Every measure I could take to safeguard myself and assert control was taken. I leaned back. The hospital room quiet except for the monitor's beeps, and I allowed myself a small, dry chuckle. It hurt my abdomen, but it felt right, necessary. Throughout this process, I realized how much this mirrored my work in logistics. When a supplier defaults, when a node becomes unreliable and costs outweigh value, you don't beg. You initiate a service stoppage. You cut the supply chain. That was what I was doing. But with a family, and yes, a little more satisfaction than usual. Each click, each cancellation, each line of finance, scrutinized and corrected, was methodical, systematic, no emotion, well, minimal, just cold, precise action. The supply chain had failed for years, and the operator me finally implemented corrective measures. Even as I took these steps, my mind raced with the implications. Saturday, the barbecue, all the preparations, the meat, the decorations, the guests arriving in perfect expectation. They had been counting on a seamless, happy day, all under the illusion that I would participate as the invisible provider, the financial and logistical foundation, and now the power out, the internet gone, the truck set to be reclaimed. I imagined Thomas holding court over an incomplete barbecue, Rebecca panicking about her streams and social media, and Martha floundering in the heat. The satisfaction was undeniable, but I reminded myself this was strategy, not vengeance. Every action was calculated, every move precise, a surgical intervention in a failing system. I spent the next hours double-checking, verifying that nothing had slipped through. Each utility, each recurring payment, each financial obligation they relied on, I made sure the correct buttons were pressed, confirmations received, nothing was left to chance. In the back of my mind, I noted the irony. They had called me dramatic, a buzzkill, rigid, and here I was, demonstrating the kind of precision and efficiency that had quietly kept their lives from chaos for years. The audacity of their judgment, the audacity of dismissing me, had created a space for me to act with complete control. It was almost poetic. By the time the sun started creeping over the horizon, casting light through the hospital blinds, the audit was complete. The power would be cut Saturday at noon. Internet terminated Friday at midnight. The truck scheduled for recovery Monday morning. Unauthorized spending stopped. I leaned back against the pillows, body sore, mind racing, and felt a strange combination of exhaustion and exhilaration. I had dismantled the entire financial and logistical foundation they relied upon, all from a hospital bed, all with calculated, precise actions rather than emotional flare-ups. This was methodical, this was controlled, this was justice in a language they might never fully understand. I closed the banking app, leaned back, and let myself breathe. For the first time in years, the weight of carrying everyone else's life didn't crush me. I had audited the system, identified inefficiencies and exploitation, and implemented corrective measures. Like any good logistics operator, I had cut the failing nodes, stabilized the flow, and reclaimed control. The hospital room was quiet. The monitor's beeps, a gentle reminder of my own survival. And for the first time, I felt powerful. Not in a reckless or angry way, but in a focused, deliberate, undeniable way. Control had returned to its rightful place in my hands. Saturday arrived like a wall of heat, the kind that presses against your skin and makes the air feel heavy and wet. 95 degrees with humidity hovering around 90%. I sat in my apartment, blessedly air-conditioned, iced tea in hand, watching the world outside my window while the chaos unfolded 2 streets over. I could almost picture it, relatives arriving, folding chairs unfolding, the smell of barbecue wafting through the heat wave, the inevitable chatter and clinking of utensils. All of it, normally, would be a scene I'd be navigating, juggling, smoothing over. Not today. At noon. My phone buzzed. Dad. I let it ring. Once, twice, then a text from Rebecca. Did you forget to pay the bill? Power just went out. I sipped my tea, feeling the faintest smile tug at the corner of my lips. Unfortunate, I thought, keeping my voice in my head calm. Neutral. My phone buzzed again. Martha, then Dad. Again. Each ping was a ripple in the chaos, a reminder of the storm I had set in motion without a word. The first call I answered came from Dad, his voice immediately raising in pitch, an almost comical sense of urgency laced with fury. Hello, Nicola, he didn't pause. The background noise wasn't music or laughter, it was confused murmuring, the smoke detector faintly beeping, and the quiet despair of a sweltering, powerless household. The brisket, perfectly timed, would have been mid-cook in the electric smoker, but that smoker was silent, fans weren't running, the AC was off, 30 people in a sauna, and there I was, cool and calm, iced tea in hand, narrating my own private victory. Oh, I said, smooth and measured. That sounds unfortunate. Unfortunate, Dad bellowed. Disaster. The meat is gonna spoil. I checked the breaker. Did you pay the damn bill? I didn't even flinch. My voice stayed low, almost casual, but firm. I didn't forget. Dad, I canceled it. I was reviewing finances while in the hospital, and, well, it hit me. Why was I paying for a house I didn't live in, for a party I wasn't allowed at? Are you insane? Thomas roared, disbelief and panic layering over his anger. Turn it back on right now. I stayed calm, professional, the sort of voice you use when negotiating a delicate contract, not when dealing with a raging relative. You told me everyone was tired of pretending to like me. Well, I accepted that. Since we're not close, I figured you wouldn't feel comfortable accepting charity from someone you despise. Duty goes both ways. I added, letting the words hang in the air. The phone buzzed again. Rebecca. Frantic. Screeching. My live stream cut out. Wi-Fi's gone. The AC isn't working. I didn't even look at the notifications. I answered calmly when Dad called yet again. You wanted me gone, I'm gone. And my wallet went with me. You have a pension. Dad, surely you can call the power company and set up an account in your own name? Maybe they'll rush a connection by Monday. Monday, he sputtered. I sipped my tea, enjoying the heat on my skin while they suffered. But I didn't gloat. Not exactly. I let the silence speak. Finally, he erupted again. The culmination of panic, heat, and humiliation. The guests are here. The food is raw. You're embarrassing us, I replied, steady and calm with the voice of someone trained to maintain control under pressure. I think you're embarrassing yourself. You told me everyone was tired of pretending. Well, I accepted that. Dad, duty goes both ways. The simmering chaos of their barbecue was contrasted perfectly with the icy calm of my apartment. Rebecca yelled in the background, frantic and shrill. My Wi-Fi, the live stream. How could you do this? I just nodded to the empty room, taking another sip of iced tea, keeping my tone low and neutral. You don't have leverage. Thomas, none. Enjoy the heat. I hung up, set my phone to do not disturb, and leaned back, letting the moment wash over me. The weekend silence of my apartment was deafening compared to the frantic noise unfolding at 1402 Maple Drive. The heat, the sweat, the confused guests, it was all perfectly timed. I didn't need to do anything else. The disruption, the missing power, the stalled streams. The heat wave, it was my operation in motion, perfectly executed. My heart raced, not from fear, but from adrenaline and a profound sense of freedom. I imagined the barbecue from their perspective. Thomas, red-faced, trying to keep up appearances, beer in hand, sweating more than the meat ever could. Rebecca, flustered, phone in hand, desperately trying to maintain a social media presence while the Wi-Fi stayed stubbornly dead. Martha, frazzled and overworked, realizing that all the preparations she had relied on me for had been methodically dismantled. And still, they had the nerve to blame me, to call me dramatic. It was almost laughable, if not for the sheer audacity of their panic. Texts and missed calls continued to ping, each one a tiny thread of chaos reaching into my serene apartment. I ignored most, letting them build. My iced tea sat on the coffee table, condensation pooling around it, as I allowed myself to simply observe. The contrast between their frantic energy and my composed calm was stark. I wasn't gloating, I was just present, watching the consequences of years of mismanagement and entitlement unfold without interference. It was surreal. Around 1:30, the final push of panic came. Dad called again, shouting. The background noise a mixture of confusion and dismay. The electric smoker had stopped. The AC was off. The meat threatened to spoil. And I answered in my calm, measured voice, "Oh, that's unfortunate. Unfortunate." He roared, the sheer heat of the day, the unpreparedness of their networked chaos, and the realization that their control had slipped. It was too much for him. I kept my tone steady. I had reviewed the finances, audited the entire system, and every decision I made had been calculated. I repeated, I canceled the services, the power, the internet, all of it. There was a pause, silence so complete I could almost hear the virtual sweat dripping from their faces. You what? He finally gasped. I calmly repeated, I canceled the service. Reviewing my finances while in the hospital had revealed that I had been funding a party I wasn't welcome at. Are you insane? He yelled, disbelief and panic clinging to every word. The silence on my end, measured and professional, was almost unbearable to him. This wasn't me being emotional. This was logistics, execution, efficiency. The calls dwindled, their frustration, palpable even through the digital barrier, eventually gave way to stunned silence. I sat back in my air-conditioned apartment, the iced tea half finished, watching the temperature climb outside while the metaphorical and literal heat rose in their backyard. The barbecue, the chaos, the panic, it was all unfolding perfectly, exactly as the audit and execution had predicted. And for me, Faison, it was almost peaceful, not exactly relaxing, but freeing. The adrenaline of control, the satisfaction of precise, calculated action replacing years of emotional and financial exhaustion. I had watched from a safe distance as the consequences of their dependence and mismanagement revealed themselves. I didn't have to intervene further. The chain had been cut, the system audited, and the operators, Thomas, Rebecca, and Martha, were finally fighting the reality of what it meant to be self-reliant. And I, for the first time in years, was just observing, cool, calm, in control. Monday morning arrived hot and bright, and I parked my modest sedan a few houses down, just across the street. I wasn't going in. Not today. My only mission was to witness, to execute, and to reclaim what was legally mine. By 8:15 the flatbed tow truck rolled up. Massive, yellow, and impossibly loud. Mike, the driver, stepped out with that calm, professional presence only someone twice Thomas' size could command. I walked up behind him, feeling a strange thrill of anticipation, heart racing in a controlled, measured way. And then the front door of the house flew open. Thomas stormed out, pajama pants, stained t-shirt, hair disheveled. He looked like a man who hadn't slept, who hadn't eaten, who'd just realized the entire world had shifted overnight. "What the hell is this?" he shouted, advancing toward the truck. Mike didn't flinch, crossed arms, clipboard in hand, picking up a 2022 Ford F-150. Leaseholder requested recovery. Thomas's eyes widened, then narrowed. "I'm the owner," he barked. I stepped forward casually, a hint of amusement in my expression. "Actually, it's not," I said, letting the words hang just long enough to register, just long enough for the neighbors to notice. Thomas whipped around to see me, my presence calm, unshaken, controlled. He was furious, red-faced, shaking with a mix of panic and rage. Martha and Rebecca appeared behind him, Rebecca with her phone already raised, filming. "You're trying to steal his truck now," she yelled, her voice shrill, eyes wide. I shook my head, almost gently. "You've been using a vehicle you were permitted to operate." "Yes, but the lease, the insurance, the payments, they're all mine. I am the leaseholder. Thomas, I pay for this truck. And since I'm tired of pretending, the deal is off." Thomas' jaw dropped. He took a step forward, frantic. "I paid for the upgrades. I put the lift kit on it, the bed liner," he shouted. I raised a hand, calm but firm. "With what money, Dad?" I asked. I pulled out a folded stack of papers from my bag, bank statements, meticulously traced, detailed, undeniable. "The money for the upgrades came from the home repair loan you asked me to co-sign 3 years ago. The one you said was for a new roof." I waved the papers slightly for effect. "That roof was never replaced. That money went elsewhere." Rebecca's face went pale. Martha's mouth opened, a soft gasp escaping. "That's a lie," Rebecca stammered, but her hands trembled as she lowered the phone. The neighbors were staring, drawn to the spectacle. Mr. Henderson, the old man across the street, had paused mid-mowing, jaw slack. I leaned in slightly, keeping my tone calm and almost conversational. "The bank records don't lie. Mom, I checked the transfer history. You didn't just use me for bills, you defrauded me. You lied about repairs to get cash to gamble and fund Rebecca's influencer business." Thomas was speechless, staring at the papers, the truck, the flatbed. He tried to assert himself, but the power had shifted. "You can't take the truck," he whispered, voice trembling. "I need it. I have errands." I didn't hesitate. "You have legs," I said coldly. I turned to Mike. "Take it." Thomas lunged for the door handle of the truck. I ignored him, holding the spare keys in my hand. "I'm not giving you these," I said. Mike caught the keys, climbed into the cab, fired up the engine. The rumble of the V8, usually Thomas's pride and joy, sounded like a death knell of the illusion he had carefully constructed. Thomas stood in the driveway, defeated, not remorseful, not humbled panic. He shouted my name, voice cracking. "Nicola, wait, let's talk. You're overreacting. We can fix this. The neighbors are watching." I just let it hang there. "Let them watch," I said, eyes scanning over the now silent street, the truck, and the neighbors who had been pulled into this moment. "Maybe they can explain to you why fraud is a bad idea." Rebecca ran down the driveway, phone in hand, camera inches from my face. "You think you're so smart? Wait until everyone finds out you abandoned your sick parents. I'm gonna ruin you," she screeched. I looked into the lens of her phone, then at Thomas, and then at the empty spot where the truck had been loaded onto the flatbed. "You don't have to ruin me," I said calmly. "I just stopped saving you." Thomas shouted again, a final attempt at authority. "You walk away now, and you're out of the will. You get nothing, the house, the bonds, everything goes to Rebecca." I stopped, a bitter smile touching my lips. Slowly, deliberately, I turned back. "The will, Dad. Do you really think I don't know?" He stared, confused, mouth opening and closing. "Know what? Know that I ran a title search this morning on the house," I said. The final nail. Thomas' bravado crumbled, the illusion of ownership, control, and inheritance slipping from his hands. The truck, the upgrades, the preparations, none of it could mask the reality. The house wasn't theirs to leave anyone. I held my ground, calm, composed, unshaken by the shouting, the panic, or the humiliation in front of the street and the neighbors. In that moment, the narrative had flipped completely. I wasn't the dramatic, condescending daughter they had mocked for years. I was the operator, the executor of accountability, and they were the ones exposed. Shock, disbelief, and humiliation painted their faces in stark relief. And I remained calm, composed, in control of both the narrative and the tangible assets. It was surreal, but methodical, deliberate, and above all, justified. The morning sun reflected off the truck's polished surface, shining a spotlight on truth. And for the first time in years, I felt the exhilarating clarity of absolute control. The house felt stifling the moment I walked in. The summer heat had soaked the walls, and the generator outside was chugging away, a lone gas-powered reminder of the chaos my actions had unleashed. Aunt Linda was there immediately, her posture rigid, arms crossed, eyes sharp. Uncle Jerry and two cousins flanked her, forming an unofficial tribunal. Thomas slouched in his recliner, dripping sweat, looking small and defeated, while Martha wept softly on the sofa. Rebecca sat cross-legged on the floor, phone in hand, face a mask of irritation and disbelief. I could feel the tension like a physical weight pressing down, and I almost smiled at the irony. After years of pretending, of carrying a household and being dismissed, I finally held the cards. Aunt Linda's voice cut through the room like a gavel. "Nicola, I am appalled, truly appalled. You need to explain why you're trying to kill them. This isn't just about money. It's about respect. Look at your father. He's a wreck." I took a slow, deliberate breath, calm, controlled. The air-conditioned clarity of my own apartment still lingered in my head. Maybe it was the adrenaline from executing the weekend's operations. Maybe just the sheer relief of knowing I wasn't complicit in sustaining a toxic system any longer. Either way, I stepped forward and laid the thick manila envelope on the coffee table. The sound of it hitting the wood echoed in the silence, almost ceremonial. Aunt Linda's eyes narrowed. "What is this?" she asked, suspicion dripping from every word. "The truth," I said, my voice steady, conversational even, like I was explaining a logistics audit to a client rather than presenting evidence to a room full of people who had underestimated me for years. For 10 years, I've carried this family, paid the bills, managed the debts, covered expenses that were never mine, and been told I was dramatic, stiff, a buzzkill. This is the final audit. Every payment, every account, every unauthorized expense has been tracked and documented. Thomas leaned forward, disbelief etched into every line of his face. Of course you have money, Meng. You can fix this. You can pay the insurance, the utilities, anything. I shook my head slightly, as if to physically remove the expectation from my shoulders. I could, I said softly, almost conversationally. But why would I? The house has negative equity. It's in a reverse mortgage. Dad, the lender will take it the moment you default on the obligations. That means that Rebecca, despite any talk of inheritance, isn't inheriting a house. She's inheriting an eviction notice. The room went utterly silent. You could hear the generator outside, a steady chugging that seemed almost comical against the sudden quiet. Martha gasped, lifting her head, eyes wide, and Rebecca's phone slipped from her hands as if gravity itself was punishing her. Thomas turned purple, flustered, his bravado evaporating in real time. That's not possible, Laz, he said, voice trembling. It is, I said, voice calm, measured. I found out 3 years ago when the lender started sending delinquency notices to my email because I was listed as the responsible party. Your spending, your mismanagement, your failure to maintain obligations, it all triggered the reverse mortgage clauses. I've been covering insurance, utilities, and taxes because you refused or neglected to. But that stops now. Uncle Jerry's jaw tightened. Aunt Linda's eyes widened. She clearly hadn't anticipated this level of preparedness or control. Rebecca, pale and flustered, finally found her voice. Dad, is this true? Did you spend the money you said you had investments? Thomas sputtered, his explanations crumbling mid-word. I was trying to build something for us, for the family. I let my words flow over them, calm, deliberate. No, you were gambling, the money went to bad investments, to maintaining appearances, and to funding Rebecca's influencer ventures. The masquerade is over. The house has negative equity. It is not a safety net. It is not an inheritance. It is debt, and I am done sustaining it. Martha's voice trembled. She stood, reaching toward me. Nicola, please, we're sorry, we need you. Where will we go? I shook my head slightly, feeling a hollow, strange sadness, not guilt, not anger, just clarity. I don't know, Mom, I said softly. Perhaps Aunt Linda can help, but I am done. I've carried this family for a decade, and that role is over. The reactions were a mix of panic, disbelief, and humiliation. Aunt Linda took a step back, suddenly aware of the magnitude of what had just been revealed. Thomas sank back in his chair, defeated. Beads of sweat running down his temples. Realization dawning that his empire had been built on someone else's labor, meticulously maintained and now withdrawn. Rebecca's fists clenched at her sides, phone abandoned on the floor. The illusion of control, so carefully curated over decades, was unraveling before the eyes of their extended family. I allowed myself a moment to internalize the freedom of that space, the weight of responsibility, of carrying the household, managing finances, policing behavior, and absorbing the cruelty and condescension it lifted in a single, decisive act. I had exposed the truth, the audit, the reverse mortgage, the negative equity. It wasn't spite, it was clarity, poetic justice. Perhaps I could finally breathe. I could finally close this chapter and reclaim the energy I had spent sustaining a system that gave nothing back. Aunt Linda finally spoke, her voice softer now, tinged with astonishment. I did not expect this. Truly, I did not. I nodded, keeping my voice conversational, not triumphant, just factual. This is the reality. The house cannot provide for anyone. The debts, the obligations, the mismanagement, they all fall away from me now. The accounts, the insurance, the utilities, the truck, those were mine to manage. I've stepped back, and now reality must play out without my intervention. Thomas tried one last weak attempt, voice quivering with both fear and fury. "Nicola, you don't have to be so cold. We're family." I looked around the room, taking in their faces, the astonishment, the panic, the humiliation, and realized for the first time in years, I wasn't angry. I wasn't vindictive. I was free. I could have stepped in and softened it, but why I had given them opportunity after opportunity to take responsibility, to contribute, to acknowledge, they hadn't. That was their choice. Family isn't about control or appearances, I said quietly, almost to myself, letting it hang in the room. It's about mutual respect, and I've spent 10 years giving that respect without receiving any in return. That ends here. The silence that followed was heavy, almost reverential. Aunt Linda, Uncle Jerry, Thomas, Martha, Rebecca. They were all processing the undeniable clarity. The audit laid bare before them. No theatrics, no embellishment, just facts, carefully documented and delivered with the calm authority of someone who had finally decided to step out of a toxic cycle. I allowed myself a slow exhale, feeling the closure settle in. This wasn't just about the house or the finances. It was about reclaiming my life, my energy, and my agency. The room remained tense, everyone absorbed in the fallout of truth, while I stood quietly, observing, composed, finally liberated from the weight of unacknowledged labor and manipulation. And in that stillness, I realized the most important thing: freedom isn't always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's measured, precise, and undeniable. And that morning, surrounded by the chaos they had created, I finally understood what it meant to be free. The weeks after the foreclosure were surreal. For the first time in decades, I felt light. My finances were my own. My time was mine. No more scrambling to cover bills, to smooth over chaos, to absorb criticism masked as family duty. I could breathe, plan, live. It was strange, this calm that replaced the constant tension, this space where I didn't have to anticipate every disaster or responsibility. For the first time, I could exist without the weight of being everyone's safety net. I met up with Sarah, my college roommate, at a small Italian restaurant downtown. She had been the one person who had always told me my family was toxic. I had brushed her off for years, defending them. But now, sitting across from her, glass of wine in hand, the reality hit me in its full spectrum. I missed the idea of family. I missed the idea of a father proud of me, a sister who loved me, but I didn't miss the reality, the exploitation, the endless management, the constant judgment to freedom. She toasted, and I clinked my glass with hers. To reality, I replied. And it was. I was mourning the family I deserved, not the one I had. It was a grief tinged with relief, a release that I hadn't realized I needed. Sarah reached across the table, squeezed my hand, and I felt the small, profound validation of being seen for who I truly was, not just for what I provided. I thought about the quiet mornings now, the long stretches of time where my only responsibility was myself. I could read, walk, indulge in simple pleasures without guilt. I could spend money on what I wanted, on experiences that enriched me rather than propping up illusions for others. The peace was almost dizzying at first, a contrast so sharp against years of tension that it felt unreal. Messages from my family still trickled in, desperate pleas, apologies tagged with the word love, as if it could erase a decade of neglect and exploitation. I read them once, then set my phone aside. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel sadness. I felt just complete. The liberation was in refusing to step back into the role I had been forced into. I could love from a distance, sure, but I no longer had to sustain a system that produced nothing but waste for me. Walking home from dinner that night, I felt the city around me in a way I hadn't before. The hum of life, the buzz of conversation, the distant sirens all seemed layered with new possibility. I didn't have to plan around emergencies I couldn't control, manage a household I wasn't welcomed into, or anticipate drama that had never been my responsibility. I was free, and for the first time, I could feel it in my bones. And so life moved forward in a quieter, steadier rhythm. I learned that protecting myself didn't make me cruel, it made me sane. That releasing the burden of others' responsibility didn't make me selfish, it made me whole. That sometimes the family you deserve is one you create with boundaries, clarity, and the courage to let go. I could finally enjoy simple things: a glass of wine, a book, a conversation with a friend who truly understood. Freedom, as it turned out, wasn't about isolation, it was about reclaiming myself. So now, I sit here, reflecting on the years, the lessons, and the peace I've found. It's quiet, but not lonely. My heart is lighter, my mind sharper, and my life fully my own. And I think maybe the most important thing I've learned is that sustaining a system that drains you is never love. It's labor. And sometimes you have to step back, breathe, and just let the rest unfold. Because when you finally do, the clarity, the freedom, and yes, even the joy are more vivid than you ever imagined. And hey, I'd love to hear from you what moments in life taught you that standing up for yourself could feel like the ultimate liberation.